Keeping on theme with my last Ben 10 video and just building off of the hype of having learned that a new Ben 10 series is on the works and is coming through as a comic book, there are some things that I want changed, added, or just improved upon when the actual new series comes out. There's a lot we don't know about the series, like how far the reboot is gonna be. Hopefully, they start off at the OG series and continue all the way on to Omniverse, which is kind of what I'm basing this whole video on, off of the assumption that they actually do this and continue from the classic onto Omniverse, just with new interpretations and better writing. There's a lot I want to see in this new version of the story. Yeah, let's just start the video with what I want changed. There's a lot of shit that happens in Ben 10 that I do not like, which is kind of a given with any series that goes on for as long as a series like Ben 10 spanning like 4 shows and multiple seasons, right? There are just some fixes and retcons that I would have changed from the original timeline onto the new timeline. And just the first one, and this is one that has bugged me for quite a bit, and it's something that I actually mentioned offhandedly in the first video, and that's changing Vilgax, or as I like to call him, Bane Gax. So Vilgax from the first series, with all the with all the enhancements and stuff, that was a giant ass threat, big ass brawler right here. And AF or UAF Vilgax, which is this one, which has all the gauntlets and the sword and all of that, and just make them different characters, bro. Because I do not see these characters, Vilgax from this version to this version they act completely differently, bro. They're completely different characters, pretty much, in just the way they present themselves and their intimidation factor. Like, they have a different type of intimidation between the both of them, and it just does not fit. I feel like having this version, which is the UAF version of Vilgax, be a completely different character. We can make him like fucking like an offspring. Just make him like Vilgax's son or daughter or whatever, and give him all these other powers and shit to compensate for them not being as strong as their father. And then that kind of just, it makes more sense for me, because Vilgax is supposed to be threatening. He's supposed to be an endgame boss, and the shit that happens in UAF kind of diminishes the fear factor that you have for the fear factor and just the aura that you have for original series Vilgax. They try to bring this back with with Omniverse, I mean, and it just kind of doesn't fit as well, right? Like, Vilgax is threatening there, but he's not as threatening and scary as he is to a kid as Bane Gax is from the original series. So making him a new character fixes a lot of these problems that I feel is just like that makes it so jarring to go from this character to this character. And it also makes some of the shit that happens in UAF, like I mentioned, make more sense if it was someone else, like Vilgax not being able to, not understanding how the Omnitrix works. It would make more sense that a new character that's not the Vilgax that fought Ben in the first series to not know how the Omnitrix works instead. Things like Vilgax begging Ben for help against Ghost Freak during the invasion of his home planet. That, if you change that to another character, it makes more sense to why a new person would be willing to put aside their differences with Ben and actually try and actually protect their home planet and then go back to all the other stuff. Having the original Vilgax kind of stay in the null void and come back later, or have the new Vilgax have a goal to try and bring the other Vilgax out of the null void, be their goal for wanting to hunt down Ben in the future, it just makes a lot more sense. We can have a whole storyline where, because Vilgax gets thrown into the null void, right? And then their offspring hears about it, like Vilgax has been killed, and it's like it's just a story that Ben Tennyson has killed Vilgax, leading them to learn all the new abilities that you see that UAF Vilgax has, and hunt down Ben and like for revenge, and so try and honor his father, right? And then realizing that, oh, Vilgax isn't dead, he's just in the null void, leading to them going into the null void. Like, see, the potential with it being a new character is just kind of elevated, and it's just something that I prefer a lot more than having and having the audience trying to convince the audience that this guy and this guy are the same person, bro. Like, you can, if you know nothing of Ben 10 and I showed you these two, they would probably, most people would probably think that these are not the same person, bro. But anyways, moving on to something else I would like change was them actually building up to Gwen's anodyne powers, right? I don't mind it that much that Gwen is also an alien and that she is a whole alien race that is more efficient with mana, right? But this stuff should have been hinted at or at least alluded to during the time span that's like the 10-year-old, like the OG series, right? That's the time span of the original series, and that's something that in the new series I want introduced. We can have hints here and there to Verdona through Max, and when Gwen starts taking an affinity towards mana and magic, just have it be easier for her, have her like have hints foreshadowing to her actually being a Anodite throughout the whole span of her being 10 to 11 that we see throughout the original series, because it comes out of left field for her to be an alien race that uses mana, then they had to try and retcon it again and again and again to try and get it to make sense with her being an anodite and her having magic and anodites and all of that and everything. So just having that be sprinkled in, making it a lot easier to understand, making the magic system a little more concise. It just adds a lot to like Gwen's character and just the magic system as a whole, because that's like a whole other part of the Benton universe that you can expand properly now since you're restarting the universe. While we're on the topic of Gwen, right? Gwen's crush for Kevin is hinted through. It's not hinted in the original series. It was non-existent, and then Omniverse had to kind of sprinkle it in for why Gwen ends up liking Kevin further on in the future, just making that make more sense, right? Gwen and Kevin in the original series do not interact, and then in the future, that's a retcon that they actually met Kevin again throughout the flashbacks of the 11-year-old Ben, 11-year-old Ben and Gwen. So that can just it can just be ironed out and have a solid timeline that actually makes more sense for Gwevin to exist, right? I didn't even want to say it like that. I just mashed together the names and it came out like that in my head. It came like that out of my mouth. But yeah, on the topic of Kevin, Osmosians. Osmosians should just be an alien race. I do not like the shit of them having made up Osmosians as memories and them not being an actual alien race and being a mutation. That is bullshit. Just add Osmosians, have it be an alien race, have the Rooters mutation be a result of Kevin's Osmosian abilities instead of him being because of him being a subspecies of human or whatever. Have it be an alien race, have the Osmosians be a race that existed somewhere throughout the galaxy and have them just go extinct or something. Just keep it around. Have them go extinct and like Kevin and the rest of the remaining Osmosians take refuge on Earth since they look the same and are like DNA compatible. So stuff like something like that. Just let those Osmosians exist. And on the topic of Osmosians, just having Kevin's backstory be fucking consistent, bro. We have all the pieces. We can write them in perfectly now. Have them be consistent, bro. That and having Kevin's powers and his madness kind of be consistent, because uh, the reason we get in the future in Omniverse for Kevin going crazy is that his powers affect his mind, and future Kevin doesn't have this problem because he's more used to having absorbed stuff in general. Just have that be the thing with Kevin from now on, where absorbing too much power makes him crazy. It's not as well shown in the OG series. We're kind of just led to assume that Kevin's just a psychopath in the OG series, and having this be the reason that he actually betrays Ben. That's we can have a whole plot line where Kevin was actually trying to be like Ben. The thing that the reboot did, that I actually really liked with Kevin. We can have him be this mirror to Ben without Grandpa Max that isn't just fucking batshit insane and wants to murder people, and kind of have it make more sense for when he becomes part of like the UAF trio, right? It will be a bit less jarring for newer readers or for people that are new to the Ben 10 series, from the jump from OG Ben, OG Kevin to like the UAF adultish Kevin, right? Since we're on the topic of moving from generations, having Ben's personality with his age be more consistent. Ben's personality from season ones of Alien Force to the later seasons of Ultimate, it's just horrible. If you want to see more in the explanation about this, we you can kind of get that from the way Koro explains it in his like Benton breakdowns. But Ben goes from calm, collected leader that's competent and good at his job, right? Seasoned veteran plumber, stuff like that, to just the absolute fucking man child. Just man turns back to 11 years old, 10 years old, acts like a fucking child. Like, there are hints and bits and pieces of this in Ben's personality just in general, right? But there's like a balance of shit that Ben at that age should not be fucking doing, bro. I didn't bring any examples, but there's tons of shit if I if I had written down before actually coming to this, but it's just UAF and Omniverse are coming to the ones that are the most egregious with this shit. Just have Ben's personality be more consistent. Have him grow out of shit that he was supposed to grow out of, like the teamwork stuff and learning teamwork. Like Ben learns teamwork like 5, 6 times, bro, throughout the span of 4 series multiple times again and again, or Ben learning how to use not to be dependent on the Omnitrix. He learns this lesson at least like 4 times, bro. Just stuff like that. Just have it be a lot more consistent. On the topic of consistency, the plumbers. The plumbers had to be retcon kind of at least they've been retcon at least twice, I'm pretty sure. At least twice. How the plumbers worked, where it started, their current like their occupation, like their status in the galaxy or in the universe and all of that stuff. Just have it be consistent. Pick one, use that throughout the whole series. I personally prefer the plumbers being space cops that kind of just enforce a law, the universal law throughout the universe, and then they also help with crises within like planets throughout the universe and stuff like that, as well as being like the hard arbiters of like just controlling peace, right? Helping prevent wars and stuff like that, or intervening in wars, stuff like that. I just want them to be like that. Me personally, this is the way I prefer the plumbers, and this is the version of the plumbers that I prefer the most. But the other versions of the plumbers that kind of been in and out, you can kind of use them. I wouldn't mind, but just have it be consistent, right? If the plumbers are like the are only on Earth, have them be only on Earth. If they're international with multiple subsections, then have it be like that. So like have pick one, use that one throughout the whole series. Just have it be consistent. Something that bugs me throughout the newer versions of the newer series, especially with Omniverse, because it's the one that's the most egregious with this, is how easily the Omnitrix comes off. In the OG series, taking off the Omnitrix is a whole fucking process, and it looks painful as hell. Like the Omnitrix is fucking fused onto Ben's wrist, right? And then later on, it just comes off easily. Like UAF also has this, right? That scene with Vilgax when he turns into goop and they just lift it off of him, and then the Omnitrix is gone. Or that one time that Ben hit the Omnitrix on a clone of himself, and magically the Omnitrix was in his hand. All that shit with how the Omnitrix comes off, make it consistent. It should be the same way it was in the original series, where that shit is grafted onto Ben's wrist. It is hard as shit to take off, and it has multiple measures of staying on that wrist unless you use a code for it or a specific device to get that shit off. And it should be painful as hell to take off, bro. If Ben is not willingly taking that shit off, it should feel like the scene where it gets forcefully removed from his wrist by Kevin, bro. It should be like that always. The Omnitrix is fair to say, if it's not that device, it should be fucking taking control of Ben's severed arm and moving it around, forcibly turning him into other aliens in order to survive getting removed from his wrist. All of this shit, bro. It should have all of that. I do not want it to fucking fly off with all the bullshit that we've seen in the later seasons, in the later series, in the later titles, bro. Get rid of that shit. The Omnitrix should be consistent. It should be hard as shit to take off. One of Ben's more iconic villains is Eon, and Eon is subject to one of the most egregious retcons the series has ever seen. Eon was first introduced in the movie, which is Race Against Time, and his whole thing in that movie was him being an actual race of time travelers, and that shit got retconned like badly, bro. They turned Eon into an evil version of Ben, which I don't mind. Goes around hunting Ben Tennyson's and all that shit. He just has beef with the main version of Ben Tennyson, right? Because he wants his powers or some shit. Personally, I feel like you could keep the Cronians. I feel like there's a way that you can make Eon, which is the bad Ben that goes around hopping timelines and shit and stealing powers from other Ben Tennysons, into his own character and keep Eon, the Cronians, and the race of Cronians alive, right? There's a way you can get around having those two exist simultaneously. I would rather them exist simultaneously. We could say that Eon Bad Ben, right? Eon the Bad Ben works with a Cronian, right? That's trying to restore his species and stuff like that. There's a creative way you could work around that. Personally, I'd want them both to exist, but if not, just pick one. Have it not did not have this retconning shit. Make it consistent. There are a lot of powers of Ben's aliens that do not get just do not see ever again, as well as the consistency with between Ben's powers with in between his aliens. Like accelerates like super speed that lets him fucking have time move at a crawl. That shit, you see that in the OG series, you never see that shit ever again, bro. Accelerate is never that fast ever again. Shit like Heat Blast being able to teleport, Diamond Head being able to absorb energy and redirect it, bro. Shit like that. There's probably tons and tons of examples of shit like this happening that is just never seen again, bro. As well as some of the weaknesses for some of the aliens, right? Like Ditto's weakness. It just gets removed by Omniverse. And then we just never see that shit again, bro. Stuff like that needs to be fixed and more consistent for this new series. I know I'm speaking a lot about consistency. It's just with the new series, all this shit should be ironed out perfectly. You already have the blueprint. Might as well have it be done correctly when you're writing it the first time, so that you don't have to go back and retcon shit and then have people get mad, right? Same with designs. Things like Big Chill, which are the most egregious, like the worst example of changing something from one series to the next is Big Chill, and to like a certain smaller extent, Goop upgrade. These aliens, their designs just changing drastically from one series to another, as well as vaping, stuff like that. Just having it be more consistent, bro. It's a new series. You can keep track of all this shit and not have it change and be retconned as badly. Because since I mentioned Eon in like the since I just recently mentioned Eon, and I kind of went on the tangent of stuff that I want consistent. Something that I want changed specifically is the ultimate version of Ben 10K or Ben 10,000. Yeah, that version of Ben 10,000 is fucking horrible. Change that shit. The whole point of Ben 10 is him transforming into weird aliens and creatures, bro. We do not want a Ben that smashes his Omnitrix, has a hologram appear behind him, and does not transform, bro. Like, what was the point? I saw a version of his band that Koro made up, as well as one that's in like a fan film where his transformation, when he transforms, it partially turns a limb into the alien, right? That would be a cooler design choice than the fucking version that we got for for the original concept of Ultimate Ben 10K. That's just something that bugs me. Just get rid of that. Yeah. And now moving from things that I want changed from what they did in the original series to things that I want added. I mentioned some of these in the last video, but quickly, just more ultimate aliens. There's multiple aliens that we do not get to see ultimates for. Things like ultimate goop. What else? Ultimate chromastone. There's a lot. I can name more, but these are just stuff that you kind of get the picture, right? I'm not gonna go over all of them. It'd be easier to name the ultimates that we did get instead of the ultimates that we didn't get, right? Having more of the ultimate aliens as well as more of the predator aliens. The predator aliens are a concept that is very fucking cool that we got to see limited applications for, bro. We got ultimate. Ultimate is still on the top of my head. We didn't get predators for aliens. Like again, goop is kind of on the top of my mind. Swamp fire, we didn't get into the predator. Like amphibian, and all these aliens that we saw, we didn't get any predator versions of those aliens, right? Anytime that a predator alien showed up, we kind of had to repeat, or when it was an episode with a predator alien, we kind of just got the same cycle of both Ben aliens that had predator aliens for them, right? We didn't get to see Kyber actually one up Ben and have to see Ben pick aliens that were hard or like maneuver through his aliens to beat certain predators, right? We didn't get any of that. You just spammed the same. Anytime one predator alien showed up, you knew that Ben was gonna mistransform and transform into the same alien that had that exact predator. It just didn't go. It's just like a wasted concept, bro. We didn't get to see much of Ben's ingenuity and his experience with his aliens because of this, right? Because of the limitations of not having as many predator aliens as possible. On the topic of adding just more shit, more alien homeworlds, there's probably multiple aliens that have a unique style to them that we'd love to see their homeworld. Like how the hell do creatures like accelerates race live? Like what's their planet like? Which is a concept that the ink tank actually does, right? With going to certain aliens' homeworlds and kind of discussing what aliens would kind of live together, what wouldn't live together, stuff like that in general, like energy and atomics. I learned recently, right? Not that recent, but recent enough that those two are from the same kind of planet, bro. You don't see any of that, which I hope we get to see more of stuff like that in the continuation of this of the Ben 10 series, right? Like the Ben 10 comics should show off more home planets, more home worlds for more of the iconic Ben aliens, right? As well as getting to see more of Ben's aliens as civilians, which is something very great that Omniverse did. On topic of shit that Omniverse did do really well, alternate universes of Ben. We only got to see two at length alternate universes of Ben, which are the Mad Ben universe and Ben 23's universe. But some of these other Bens have very unique like universes, like Gwen 10. There we got the What If, right? We got the What If in the OG series, but I would like to see more of Gwen 10's universe, as well as like more versions of alternate Bens that are good, because the concept of the alternate Bens, it was only really played out for one version. Like actually two versions, which was Gwen 10, and then oh no, three actually. So Gwen 10, No Watch Ben, and Ben 23. The other two versions of Ben were Ben Prime and a future version of Ben 10,000, right? So comparing that to the versions of Ben that were evil, the only one from from the Prime timeline was Albedo. The unique versions of the other Ben were like more unique than the versions that we saw on the good guy side of like the alternate dimension Bens, like Zombie Ben, fucking Mad Ben, and like Nega Ben, Emo Ben, all that stuff, bro. We should get more like unique concepts like that for evil versions of Ben, for good versions of Ben, as well as more evil versions of Ben. I'm not gonna lie. Whenever we get to the exploring of other dimensions, as well as going to their planet, to their dimensions, right? Seeing what it's like. Like I mentioned in the other video, the older video before this, about the universe of Ben Zaro, bro. I want to see what that universe is like. But yeah, lastly on my things that I want to add in is more of the OG Omnitrix scanning. So Ben actually runs into quite a few other alien races in the OG series before we get the scan feature in AF and Omniverse and all that stuff. Like, Ben should have been able to scan more species aside from the Honor trio, right? Like, the additions should have been more than just those guys when it came to actually scanning new races. Ben should have gotten to be able to scan Vilgax, you know, imagine a Vilgax transformation like the OG, like the reboot actually did, which is something that I really like from the reboot. Actually, getting Ben a Vilgax alien transformation as well as a Lenopen transformation, right? A Sledge Puppy transformation. Some of the aliens from the Null Void. We already have Wild Mutt, and he's races in the Null Void. We could have gotten more of the aliens that are in the Null Void as aliens for Ben to use. Stuff like Xylene's race that's telepathic. We could have been have telepathy and stuff, and telepathic alien, right? Just some of that stuff with the aliens that he actually meets in the OG series. Just have him be able to transform into them, either in the actual time span of him being 10 to 11, or give it to him later in the time span that he's 15 to 16. And on the topic of Ben's ages, kind of just span out Ben's ages a little more. Like, it doesn't make sense that all of UAF to Omniverse kind of takes place in the span of a year. I feel like that should be spanned over a little more, right? Like, have the AF time span where he has the recalibrated Omnitrix, have that be a 1 year, so that's Ben at 16. Then have from the events of UAF takes place in its own year, so Ben is 17, and then have Omniverse take place when Ben is actually 18. Stuff like that. Just things that have help it make more sense, bro. Because no way that all of the shit that happened in UAF took over the span of a year, bro. That's just crazy. Even and before Ben's birthday at that. So yeah, I guess that's pretty much it for this video. I don't think I have anything else that I wanted to add much more. But yeah, these are just kind of some of the nitpicks and things that I want changed and added for this new series that I'm very excited for. Hopefully, we get more news of how it's actually gonna turn out and how in depth they're gonna go with the reconstructing of the new universe and the laws and all that stuff.